Hello, hello everybody. Welcome to the day 2 of our Leaky Gut Workshop. If you did not see day 1 yet, it's really important to go back and watch day 1. You can of course join me here, but day 1 is where we went over the what and the why and the how, all of the important information that is really necessary for, I would say, everyone on the whole planet to know. Like, if you have a gut, you need to know this information, and it's going to impact you one way or the other, so you might as well know it, be aware of it, and understand that taking care of your gut is just as important as like taking care of your car, right? Like, what if somebody just came up and gave you a Ferrari? Would you just like leave it out in the snow and the hail and like maybe put gas in it, but maybe not, and kind of like crash it into a tree sometimes? No, you would take really good care of it, wouldn't you? And you've been given this body that you need to live in for the rest of your life. And if we don't take care of it, then you're not going to have it forever, and it's going to break down, and all of that comes from the gut. And so really super important that we need to take care of not only the way that our gut works, but the way that the gut influences the rest of the body is so important. So that's why if you have not seen day 1 yet, please go back and watch day 1. If you need the replay, just comment replay on this video and I will send it over to you. Super, super, super important. And so we went over the what and the why and the how. Like, what the heck is leaky gut? Why do we care about it? How does it happen? And why do so many people have it? Like, it's estimated anywhere between 80 and 90% of people in America have some form of leaky gut. Now, everyone has a leaky gut, and that is on purpose because we want our gut lining to be permeable enough to let in the vitamins and the minerals and the protein and all of that. That's how we absorb our nutrients from our food, is through the gut. But when it becomes too permeable, hyperpermeable, and then it could start letting through toxins into your body. And, that's a very, very simplified explanation of what happens, but that's why we're here, and that's why it's so important that we need to seal back up that leaky gut and make sure that the toxins aren't circulating through the body. So pretty much any symptom that you have, whether it's gut issues, bloating, bowel issues, heartburn, indigestion, stomach pains, IBS, all of these things. But it can also be things throughout the rest of your body, like joint pain, autoimmune issues, headaches, brain fog, anxiety, depression, insomnia, thyroid issues, anything coming through the skin, rashes, acne, eczema, things like that. So really, if you have any kind of symptom whatsoever, then leaky gut is something that is going to be really important for you to take a look at. So today is going to be a little bit more fun than day 1. Day 1 was a lot of learning and science, but super important, right? Just having the awareness is super important. But day 2, we're going to go over something that I make in my house every single week. Well, I make it every other week, and I make enough for 2 weeks. So I freeze half of it and I keep the other half of it in the fridge. And that way my whole family has it. So we're all getting this good gut repair in all the time. So let me know, say broth in the comments if you've ever made bone broth before, or you've ever had bone broth before. Bone broth is 2,000 years old, right? Like, this has been going on for centuries, because back in the day, it was a way to take all of your scraps and make a broth out of it. So it's kind of out of necessity and out of, effectiveness, getting the most out of your food. But I bet what they didn't know is that they were healing their guts in the process. So basically, bone broth is just taking animal bones and vegetables, and we'll go over the recipe here, and cooking it slowly for maybe, 8 to 24 hours, and getting all of that goodness out of the food into the broth. And then you can make a soup out of it, any kind of soup that you like. Riley, will you please let him out? The dog is just standing there scratching at the door. and the daughter doesn't want to do it. Now you get to see my real life. Now she's stomping over to do it. So, Riley, leave the door open, please, so he can come back in. Thank you. Usually she likes to help with my videos, but today, not so much. Can I just leave it, please? So we're going to get all of the goodness out of the bones, out of what we put into it, into that broth. And the really important thing to know is that in animal bones and in the connective tissue and things like that are important elements that are going to help our gut lining heal back up. So there are amino acids. So amino acids are the building blocks of our body. We need amino acids from protein to literally build the cells of our body. And so the amino acids that are very prevalent in bone broth are things like glutamine. That glutamine is one of those things that really helps seal up the gut lining and that integrity of the gut. We also have things like glycine, and glycine is really important for so many things in the body. It's good for joints, it's good for sleep. So every amino acid has a different sort of job in the body and a different benefit for the body. And so there are a lot of really prevalent amino acids in this. And then we've also got a lot of electrolytes. And so, people don't get enough electrolytes in their body, things like potassium. So a lot of people know that like potassium is in bananas, let's say, but maybe you don't know that bone broth is very high in potassium and even sodium. So salt gets a bad rap these days. Salt is not the enemy at all. We need salt in our body. We are electrical beings, and we need salt water to be surging through our bodies at all time. And so we want to make sure we're getting salt in the right manner. And this is one of those ways that we're going to get those electrolytes, sodium and potassium and magnesium. It's very high in magnesium, to make sure that the body stays hydrated. Because if the body is not hydrated, it simply cannot do all its processes. And even if you're drinking a lot of water, if you're not drinking filtered water and water that is mineralized, it could be leaching electrolytes out of your body. So it could actually be making you more dehydrated. Like if you have to pee a whole bunch when you drink water, it might be a sign that you are actually dehydrated because you don't have enough electrolytes in the body. And so this is something that will get electrolytes back into your body and actually hydrate your cells, because when we're drinking water, it doesn't do us any good if it doesn't get into the cells. And so we need electrolytes to get that water into the cells where we need the water to be. So a lot of really important things happening with bone broth, and it is, Riley?
Give me that stick. No.
Oh, my family. Bone broth is, you can buy it, but it is too easy not to just make it at home, because it's so much more impactful to make it at home. And the other thing is you want to make sure that you get really high quality bones for your broth. You don't just want to get any old bones, because what happens is animals store a lot of the goodness in the bones, like the collagen is really what we're going for here. But they also store their toxins. And so if we use bones from an animal that was not properly raised, not properly fed, then we're bringing all those toxins into our body. So here's what we want to look for. And this goes for all of our animal protein that we eat at home. You want to look for pasture-raised chicken, grass-fed beef, wild caught fish. Okay, if you need a link to the company that I use that delivers all that right to my front door, just put meat in the chat and I will give you that link. And I think I have a code for $20 off your first box, something like that. This is really super important, you guys, because when we eat meat, you've heard the old term, you are what you eat, but you also are what you ate. And that's a really important thing to know, because in these industrial feed lots where they raise these animals, they feed them absolute garbage. GMO, non-organic, pesticide-filled junk, basically. So if the animal is eating that, that's what we are eating as well. And that animal becomes our new cells of our body, right? And so really important. And unfortunately, it's challenging to find really high quality meats. If you have a Whole Food store, you could go there and ask them, like, do you have pasture-raised chicken bones? We have a store here locally that has a big freezer in the meat department, and they have a bunch of packages of like the parts that people don't so much want, but it doesn't matter what part it is, so much as you would just want to make sure it's properly raised. So if you go to your butcher or your local store and say, do you have any pasture raised chicken parts or bones, or you could get a whole chicken as well, or chicken wings or anything like that. But the one that makes the best broth, and I know my mom is watching and she hates it when I say this, but when the broth is cold, you want it to be gelatinous. And my mom hates that word. But if you want it to be the texture of Jell-O when it's cooled in the refrigerator. And the best way to do that is chicken feet. The chicken feet have all the good connective tissue without a lot of the fat. Sometimes the pieces that you get can be very fatty, and I personally don't like. You can skim the fat off, but the feet, they don't have all the fat, and they have so much connective tissue, so all that collagen makes that really good gelatinous broth. So when I pull my broth out of the fridge, it has the texture of Jell-O. And I don't know if you ever had an experience like this when you were a kid, but this just stuck in my mind. See, the feet don't bother me. I can touch them. Some people can't look at them or touch them. But I do this all the time, so it doesn't bother me. But when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was probably like 15. I got mono, and all I could eat was Jell-O for like 2 weeks. Mom, do you remember this? And for that 2 weeks, it was like the only thing I could even swallow because my throat was so bad. And my nails and my hair grew like crazy. Like I had the longest fingernails I've ever had in my life. And it was the gelatin, right? And that is what happens when we make bone broth. So it's really good for your hair, your skin, and your nails. Because whatever is good for your gut lining, like your gut lining is your inner skin, right? So whatever's good for your skin is going to be good for your gut. And your skin is always a reflection of what's going on in your gut. And so this will also create glowing, clear skin, long, strong hair, long, strong nails, really strong joints. I mean, there's so many benefits. I could go on and on and on. So find some good quality bones. And then it's so simple, you guys. Like, honestly, this whole thing takes me 5 minutes every other week. So everybody has 5 minutes every other week. I know it. Some people will go, I just don't have time to make bone broth. And I go, you do. I'm not going to fall for it. So all you need to do is you can throw in any scraps, really. But the usual essentials are celery. So I kind of cut off like the bottoms of the celery and the tops of the celery and keep the middles that we can all use for snacks or whatever. It can be scraps. It can just be rough cut. Oh, look who's helping. Thank you. I'll take one more. Okay, rough chop. Just throw them in. Okay, a handful of celery, handful of carrots. And I'm going to do a whole onion, white onion. Thank you. I've mistakenly done the red before, and it makes purple broth. So you don't want to make that mistake. But whole thing, skins and all. Like there's antioxidants in the skin. Okay, not the sticker. But there's good stuff in the skin. So just throw it all in. There's always good stuff in the peels of foods, of fruits and vegetables and root vegetables and things. And then I'm going to do, if you like garlic, you can do more. If you don't like garlic, you can do less. But I just rough chopped in half 3 cloves of garlic. Throw that in. Okay, and then my wonderful assistant here, Riley, is going to pour in some Bragg's apple cider vinegar. So it's about 2 tablespoons. Yep, that looks good. Thank you. So you want to get one that has the mother. You want it to say on the label with the mother. The mother means it's fermented. There is apple cider vinegar that's not fermented. It doesn't have all the good enzymes and bacteria. You want to get all the good enzymes in there. What it does is it pulls all the goodness out of the bones. So you want to get that apple cider vinegar in there to make sure you get the highest nutrient content, highest collagen, highest all of that. And then you want to use a good high quality salt. I like Redmond's real salt. You want to hold that up so that people can see it? Okay, yep. So Redmond's real salt. It's got all the minerals in it. You want your salt to be full of minerals and not full of toxins. And a lot of salts, unfortunately, are. So this is mined from one singular salt mine in Utah. And so it's, you know, free of all kinds of things that other salts have in it. And it's unrefined, so it keeps the minerals. Like table salt doesn't have all the minerals in it. So you want to get a good high quality salt. And sometimes like the sea salts and things like that can have heavy metals from the ocean. It's like so hard to find things that are good for you, right? Because everything is tainted now. But you just do the best that you can. And this one is really good, and you can order it in a big bag, and it's pretty inexpensive. Okay, and that's it. So then we just put some water in, and you kind of fill it to about maybe this much over the line of where everything comes to. And then you just cook it. So that's it. Really, it honestly takes me 5 minutes every other week. Now, there's 3 different ways you can cook it. I am going to use my Instant Pot because I want to use this tonight for dinner. The preferred way is low and slow for many hours. But in the Instant Pot, you can do it in like 30 minutes. And the way you know that it's good is if it has that gelatinous texture. Sorry, Mom. When you come out of the fridge, and this one does every time. So I know that I'm able to get everything out of the bones in that amount of time. So I set it, I just turn it, make sure it's gonna seal. It's on the sealing mode. And then I just push soup. That's it, done. But, you know, the old traditional, of course, 2,000 years ago, they didn't have an Instant Pot. So you could do it on the stove, but you have to be really careful on the stove because like our stove is way too hot. You don't want it to boil. You just want it to barely be bubbling. And it's really hard to do that on the stove. So probably the best option is in a crock pot. And you can, like if I made it right now, I would set it for 8 hours. And then like right before I go to bed, I would set it again for another 8 hours. So that would be, you know, a nice 16-hour slow cook overnight, and then strain it. Now don't do this what my husband did one time. He's always the one who strains it for me and gets out all the feed and stuff like that. Because I'm very messy, so if I try and strain it, I'll get stuff everywhere. He got the strainer, put it in the sink, and strained it out, but didn't have anything underneath it. So all the broth went down the sink. So don't do that. But you want to let it cool a little bit, strain out all the solids, strain the broth into a glass container. So you really want to get a nice good glass container because the plastic is going to leach, or the plastic will leach into your broth, all the little microplastics. So you don't want that to be in your broth, right? So you want to get a nice good glass container, and I take half of it, put it in the freezer. I'll take this half, make a big soup out of it, and our family eats this soup, you know, 4 or 5 days a week for lunch or for dinner or whatever. And then next week, I'll take the other one out and make a different soup. And so I have a gazillion soup recipes because I try and make a different one every week. Of course, I repeat sometimes, but I have so many soup recipes. So I did make sort of a small little good variety recipe book of my Happy Belly approved soups. So if you want that recipe book, just comment soup on this video and I'll send it over to you. It's just kind of, you know, there's a Mexican one, there's a Thai one, there's a chili, like there's just a whole bunch of good variety in there. Julio, must you play with your toy right here? And so that, you know, that's one great way to support the other things that you're doing. And I want to make it clear because people always say, well, what can I do for leaky gut? What can I take or what can I eat? There's never just one thing. And if you watched yesterday, which if you didn't watch yesterday, I want to reiterate, please go back and watch yesterday, day 1. If you want the replay, comment replay on this video and I will send it over to you. It's vitally important. If you have a gut you need to watch day one. There's never just one thing that is going to solve your issues. Never, ever, ever. Because first of all, we need to figure out what caused your issues in the first place. Like, what are you doing that's damaging your gut? And so if you watch day one, you'll see my list of all the things that are damaging your gut. So number one is just kind of try and take those things away. But then number two, we have to get you the right amount of nutrients. And so just having bone broth is going to boost your nutrients exponentially. But if you have it every day, but what we need to make sure is we're literally building the cells of our gut lining every single day. And so we can rebuild our gut lining, but we need to build it out of what we put into our mouth. And so making sure that you get the optimum amount of nutrients is number one. And only 1 out of 10 Americans is getting enough nutrients from their food, which is a really scary number. So out of all of you watching right now, probably one of you gets enough nutrients in your everyday life from your food. So that's scary. So that means most people are not able to rebuild those cells of their body strong because they don't have enough vitamins and minerals and protein and all of the things that build the cells. And so making sure you have enough nutrients is vital. But the other thing is that when you do have leaky gut, which if 90% of us do, we can just say we all do basically, unless you like live on a farm somewhere and eat all your own food and drink out of a well and don't have any stress. Riley, can you take that away from him? Then you're not absorbing your nutrients. And we went over this again yesterday. So if you have leaky gut, you're not absorbing the nutrients from your food either. So even if you think you're eating enough nutrients, if your gut isn't absorbing them, just like I said before, you are what you eat, right?
Stop.
But you only are what you absorb.
Stop.
Okay, Riley, just ignore him. Just ignore him.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. So you only are what you absorb. And so if you eat 3 wonderful meals a day with fruits and vegetables and bone broth and nuts and seeds and all the great things, but you're only absorbing 10% of that because your gut isn't working right, then that is the second issue, right? So what we need to do is give the body nutrients that it can absorb, nutrients that it doesn't have to break down to be able to assimilate. Hi, buddy. Okay, let's be done with that. So that is why with every single one of my clients, we do a morning, what's called power shake, and it is pre-digested nutrients. It's got 6 superfood salads worth of nutrients in it, but they're pre-digested, so your body doesn't have to work to absorb them. And so you feel this flood of nutrients because your body can actually use these nutrients for the first time in however long. If you're just eating food every day that your body can't break down and absorb, then you're not getting the nutrients and you're not able to rebuild the gut lining. So we do this shake every single day, 365 days a year. It literally takes 30 seconds and you get 6 superfood salads worth of nutrients into your body that your body will actually use. It's certified organic, tested for glyphosate, totally glyphosate free. And that brings me to my third point, is that if we're constantly eating food that has been sprayed with glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, and I wrote an article recently for a magazine about glyphosate. So if you want that article, just put article in the comments and I'll send it over to you. It's a really important thing to know. It's really especially important if you are a mom because the kids' food has the most glyphosate in it. But what it does is it comes into our body. It acts as an antibiotic, and antibiotics will kill your good gut bacteria. And then that gut bacteria is your first line of defense. And then the mucosal barrier is that second line of defense. So that starts to get broken down. So then we get leaky gut. So the glyphosate comes in, causes leaky gut, and it's really hard to get out of the body, and it can stay in the body for a very long time. It's even linked to cancer. And so that's another thing that we do is, first of all, trying to get as much organic food into your body as humanly possible, because organic food has a lot less glyphosate. Even organic food tests positive for glyphosate these days because of neighboring farms. And so this farm could be organic and they don't use any glyphosate, but the farm next to it uses it, and then the wind blows it in and it goes in through the soil, and now this organic farm food now contains glyphosate. So trying to buy organic as much as humanly possible is good, and I know it's not available to everyone in all locations, but just doing our best. And you can't rinse it off. It's in the food. It you know, if it's in the soil, it gets into the food. So of course, washing your produce is always a good idea, but you can't just rinse it off. It's just not that simple, unfortunately. And so we also detox glyphosate every day in my program. So we get the absorbable nutrients, detox glyphosate, because if you're not detoxing it out of your gut, it's going to keep degrading and causing leaky gut. And so that's another really important thing to think about. Now, if you want to know my number one food to avoid leaky gut, actually, we're not avoiding it. We're preventing it from getting worse at this point. Canola oil. Yeah, that heart-healthy oil that they tried to tell us was a good idea. It's not only canola oil, it's canola oil, vegetable oil, anything partially hydrogenated, sunflower oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, corn oil. They're all, I'm just going to call them industrial oils. Those are things, if you just went out and did one thing with the rest of your life and avoided those oils, you would be improving your health tenfold. So the hard thing about this is these oils are in almost everything because they're cheap. But what happens is these are not natural oils. The process to get them from a seed, like the canola oil is from a seed called the rapeseed, which sounds lovely, doesn't it? But the process to get that rapeseed from a seed to an oil it's absolutely mind-blowingly disgusting. And I'm not going to tell you all the details of it, but it involves some nasty, nasty processes. But basically, by the time it gets to you, it is not food anymore, and it is rancid, and it causes oxidation in your body and inflammation in your body. And it's in everything. Go to your pantry right now, and I bet every single one of you, including me, has boxes of food in there that if you turn it around, it either has canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, right? And because it's in everything, like I eat it every so often, like every single fried food at a restaurant is fried in canola oil. And after it's been heated and cooled, it's even more rancid than it was when it got to the restaurant to begin with. And so it's even more inflammatory. It's going to cause more oxidative stress on your body. Now, I eat it every so often, but I really protect my body around when I eat it. And I don't eat it every day. I don't even eat it every week. But every so often, if I go to a party and there's some, crackers there that are cooked in canola oil, I'm going to eat them. I'm not going to not eat. But just being aware that these things are surrounding us and trying to avoid them as much as possible is going to greatly improve your health. So that is my number one tip to stop the continuation of your leaky gut, is to avoid those inflammatory oils. Now there's a gazillion other things that can be done, and we're going to go over the whole kit and caboodle tomorrow for day 3. We're going to go over next best steps. Like, okay, we did day 1, the why, the what, the how. Day 2, we talked about food, how it affects your body, how we build our body out of the food, and why bone broth is so important in that process. And then tomorrow is actually going to be next best steps. Like, how do I really repair this? Because if we don't start making it better, it does only get worse. And then that's when people end up with some really bad things happening in their 50s, 60s, 70s. It's not just age, it's damage, right? And then when we do that damage to the gut, it is going to spread out to the whole rest of the body. It's going to leak. That's why it's called leaky gut. Leak through into the rest of the body, and we don't want that to happen. So we just need to know what to do to take care of our bodies and just have the awareness of it. Once we have the awareness, it changes everything. And so that is a gift. A gift is the awareness, because if you don't know, you don't know how to fix it, right? You don't know how to change things that you just don't know. And so please join me tomorrow. It's our final day. same time, 3 o'clock Pacific time on Thursday, tomorrow. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what I do with myself and my clients to make sure that not only are we stopping the progression, but we are trying to reverse it. And no one's ever going to be 100% healed at this point, but the closest we can get to healed is my goal for all of you and all of my clients and my family and the dog. So any questions about any of that? I don't think I can see the chat. And then if you want the replay of yesterday, comment replay. If you want the soup recipes, comment soup. And what else did I offer? Let's see if I can see the chat here. Any questions about bone broth, about what foods are beneficial, if certain foods are not beneficial? Drop them in the chat. You guys had great questions yesterday, so thank you for that. I really love the engagement. That's the word I'm looking for. Let's see. Any questions? Questions. Okay, don't see any. And this is one thing about Facebook. It says 22 comments, and it's showing me 3. So, oh, thank you, Marcia. Yes. The link to where we order all of our meat. So, you guys, it just takes a load off of your mind if you know that every single piece of meat that comes to your house is properly raised and properly fed and doesn't have antibiotics, hormones, shitty food, all of that. Like, have you guys seen the documentary You Are What You Eat? I'm not 100% behind it, but it does show you where most meat comes from. And if you watch that, you're gonna want to use this link that I have. So we get a delivery every 6 weeks, and for our family of 4, I think we spend about $175. So it's not, and we don't eat meat every single day, but it's affordable. It's affordable. And you can get chicken, beef, pork, salmon. I mean, they've got it all. So yes, I will drop that link. Thank you, Marcia, for reminding me. Any other questions? I will get all those links out to you this afternoon. I have a couple clients after this, and then I will get on those links. You guys, if you aren't seeing the things I'm sending you, send me a friend request. Because Facebook sometimes won't let you see my messages unless we're friends. So everyone, I'm more than happy to be friends. Let's be friends. Send me a friend request, and then you can actually see all the things that I'm trying to send to you. Okay, and then tomorrow, join me back here, 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Bring your questions, and I'll see you then. Have a good night.